All right, and thank you for coming to Sewing for the At-Home Dad. This is Sarah Gordon. She's been a master tailor since 1976? 78. And she's also been my mom since 1981. So appreciate you guys coming in and enjoying what she has to show you about how to sew, because I don't know how to sew because she does all my stuff. So.
Hello. How many of you, let's start out with how many of you are left-handed? Oh, yay. Because I'm not left-handed, so it would have to be. How many of you sew? A little bit. So none of you have sewing machines?
My wife does.
Your wife does? Do you use it? Does she use it?
She does. I would like to learn
how to use it. Okay. Paul, do you want to pass those things out? So we're going to start with the basics then, I'm guessing. In each of those bags, there's a pin and some thread. The pin I stuck into a little piece of paper, and they're size 8s, sharp. So if you go looking for pins for your little bit bigger hand than mine, that is the best one for you to look for. You don't have to get the assorted, just buy a package of size 8 sharps. And I did write that down so you know that. No, I'm sorry, size 7. I use size 8 because as the numbers go down, they get small, or go up, they get smaller. So size 7s, I'm sorry. How many of you know how to thread a needle? And do you have problems threading a needle? Okay. If you guys want to take out your needles and your little bit of thread, and I have scissors here if you want to cut that thread. For little work, a scissors like this is your best bet for trimming thread. The big scissors, oh, sorry.
That's okay, no, you're fine. I can look over there.
The big scissors are great for anything else, for cutting stuff out. These are Fiskars. These are all Fiskars. Fiskars is a company from Wisconsin, so I buy Fiskars. Okay, when you thread a needle, you hold the thread between your left index finger and thumb. Okay. Do the old little bit of spit on it. Just make it kind of sharp. And always bring the needle to the thread. If you're having trouble threading a needle, it's because you're trying to take the thread to the needle. So can you see this?
Yep.
So don't bring the thread to the needle, bring the needle to the thread. And then you can pull it through. To make a knot at the end, if you want to do a double, if you're sewing something heavier, like a button, you would double it. If you're doing, no, pull it through. If you're going to do something like a button, double it, and then we'll make the knot at that end. If you're going to do something like a hem, you only want one thread. And you have a little bit hanging here.
Double isn't overlap.
Double is like making sure the needle's at the middle. Yeah. And the ends match.
What reason would you not double it up?
If you're doing a hem. When you're doing a nice hem, you don't want that much thread. Okay? We'll get to hems. Okay. All right. Take it between your index and your thumb. Just around your index. Just around your index here. And then you just kind of twist it against your thumb and pull it. I've got it between my fingers. And I'm going to twist it again. And then you just twist it. Let me get my fingers wet here. Some of this stuff I just do in my sleep. And then you just twist. See how I'm twisting that? And then you can pull it. You can do it any way that works for you.
Overhand works.
Whatever you want to do to make it a little less frustrating. Okay, around your fingers. Catch it like that. You're all thumbs, right? Okay, bring it around again like you're doing, and then just roll it. Roll it. Yeah, and then pull it. Pull that rolled to the end. Now just pull it. There, perfect. Okay, this is how to sew on a button. Wherever you want your button, you stab it in. The majority of buttons are sewn on in an X. If you'll notice anything you buy at the store, it's sewn on in an X. As you get a little bit better quality clothes, they will be sewn on parallel to each other. I'm just going to do an X here. So I'm going to come up. I went down where I want the button. Going to come up at an angle, put my button on it, and okay, there. And the reason I do that knot on the top of the fabric is because it's going to be kind of like a little bit of a stem. You notice that your buttons aren't tight to the clothes, because if they are, it's hard to get the fabric buttoned. So now I had lined my button up. I'll line it up again. Go down. Now I want to catch the other. No, I forgot the buttons. I'm sorry. So I just have one.
Yeah, Paul's shirt's up there. We got
I know we could just cut if he had. And all these guys have t-shirts on, so I can't take all the buttons off of their shirts either. So we're just going to have to do with this. I did intend to bring buttons and put them in your bags, but I forgot. So forgive me. So again, I'm just doing this X. And I've done it 4 times, which is pretty good. What I'm going to do now is come up under the button, between the fabric and the button. Am I on the feed? Oh, yeah. And wrap it around what I've sewn. Put the button to the back of your fabric. Turn it over, and that's where you'll make your knot. And now, if any of your partners are doctors, they probably have this really nice little knot tying stitch, which I learned from a doctor. You take it through once and you take it through a second time and pull. And it's all knotted. And that's how you can finish off any kind of hand sewing you do, is put it through. I'll do another one. Have that little loop there. Now, doesn't want to do it. There we go. So I'm putting it through once and twice. When Paul had his lips stitched after a football game, I watched the doctor and said, "Oh, well, I really like that." And then you just trim it off, and there's your button. It's not tight to the fabric. It's not tight to the fabric. That going around the knot just gives it that little bit that you need. We sewed on a button. Okay, now all of you have a yellow piece of fabric, and you'll note that I have 2, if you pull it apart, this is what I'm showing you for a hem, a nice hem, not a pair of pants, not a pair of jeans hem, but say your wife wants or your partner wants their pants up, or you need your hem turned up once. always undo it. Don't just turn it.
What's a hem?
You'll notice on hems that the light's really bad in here. You've all seen them. You've all had them where you get a loose thread on a hem and you pull it and all of a sudden. When you want to pull out that thread because you want to do a hem, you just work it till you get it so that it's free. There we go. And then you can just pull the whole thing. So if you're hemming your pants with a hem like this, a nice dress hem, that is, if you don't have a sewing machine, this is what I've given you for options if you don't have a sewing machine. You can either turn the fabric over and press it. What I've done first is, this is where I want the finished hem to be, this line right here. This is now the hem. Pretend this is the pants or skirt or whatever. If it's thin enough, you can turn it over like this. If it's a heavier fabric, it gets kind of bulky. But if you don't have a serger or a machine that does zigzag, this is a better option. Now, I have included a little square in your package. That is the stuff. And if you want to write down, it is called a fusible shear weight. That right there. That is what I have ironed on there, and it's a nice weight. The object is, you don't want this fraying. You don't want your fabric, your pants fraying. So go to the fabric store and buy a fusible shear weight. This is Pellon number 906F for fusible. And iron it on, and that will keep that from fraying. That's all you can see on this. It didn't do a good job, but there.
So like on mine, that covers half of it, and the other half you've kind of done a double.
Right. The double one is to show you what it'd be like if you would just turn it under. But if, say, a pair of pants, this is a knit. Oh, this wouldn't, well, it might get too thick. Most of the time it's going to be too thick. But this is a nice option by using that Pellon and ironing it on. And every piece of Pellon comes with instructions like this. It's usually a whole sheet. But you don't need to buy a lot. Buy a quarter yard. You don't need a lot. So now we all have our threaded needles, and we all have our knots, except for me. Keep that from fraying. That's all you can see on this. It didn't do a good job, but there.
So like on mine, that covers half of it, and the other half you've kind of done a double.
Right. The double one is to show you what it'd be like if you would just turn it under. But if, say, a pair of pants, this is a knit. Oh, this wouldn't, well, it might get too thick. Most of the time it's going to be too thick. But this is a nice option by using that Pellon and ironing it on. And every piece of Pellon comes with instructions like this. It's usually a whole sheet. But you don't need to buy a lot. Buy a quarter yard. You don't need a lot. So now we all have our threaded needles. I've got a knot. I'm going to bring it up. Usually you bring it up at a seam. But I don't have seams on this. But your pants will have them. A blind stitch is you take a teeny tiny little, and then is it showing there?
Yeah.
Okay. You go over about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch and come up. Now, I usually do it a lot finer than this, but I'm going to do it so that you can see what I'm doing. So if you want to practice doing that is it showing?
Yep.
Can they see it? I don't know. Can they see it well enough? So
So she's putting a little knot, or she's going, sorry, not knot. She's putting the needle a little bit through the bottom part of the fabric and then going up.
which is actually the outside of the fabric, which is why you want it to be very fine. Because see, I'm sewing this with gold fabric on a yellow, so it's not invisible, but from the outside, it is, because I'm only trying to pick up 1 or 2 threads. It doesn't matter what it looks like today, don't worry about it. At least you've got an idea. It's now in your head. You can practice. Does everybody have the idea?
No?
No. Come on up here then. If you don't have the idea, come on up here. Okay, so what I did is I originally came up under. Here's my knot over here. Okay, so now I'm taking just a tiny little bit. I started it here, but it would, when you're doing a pair of pants, you would start it at the seam.
One knot's between the two parts of the hem.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So like this is a little bit easier to see. You would bring it up here and then start. Okay. Which is why we use 1 thread, which is no big deal. Okay, you did. Look. Oh, okay. See what happens? If you do that, you get all this on the outside. So you go straight up. Take your little stitch and let the angle be hidden under the hem. See how it's hidden? How where yours goes like this. And again, this is why we use a single thread, because it's showing. Yours is showing. Mine, I don't know. Maybe mine was showing too.
See how hers is like almost.
Well, it is blind. That's the idea.
The thread is.
No. See, now here I just did it with,
You're using the double.
which is, still mine is invisible, but that's because I've been doing this for more than 10 minutes. So
Right. So once you get used to doing a single
you're
thread,
just doing as little as you can. Yeah.
The biggest line.
Right.
right.
Because I've just always done double over.
And you really only need double for buttons. Okay, now there's 2 little ones like this in your, and what I did is one is folded in half, and you can see I sewed 2 ends, and there's an empty space in between. We're going to learn the stitch for stitching that close for when you have a hole in your little boy's crotch.
It's like a broken seam on a stuffed animal.
Yeah, like a broken seam. Like we've got some broken seams over there.
So this is an example for like the stuffed animal where the armpit is broken. And if it kept going
We're going to be doing the same kind of blind stitch that you were doing on the hems. If anybody needs more thread, come up and get it. All right, everybody take this piece here. That looks like this. It's a little, I should have done it a little sooner. You come up where it's hidden. And we'll do the same stitch you just did, but a lot closer together. So I'm going to just leave that. And I should have taught you how to tie off. I'm going to do that right now. Again, you just do it a little bit up and do your double through the loop. Oops. And then take your thread to the inside and trim it. Oh, do you have a scissors? Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna do you want to give me that donkey? Do some doctoring here. I'm using a double thread because you want it nice and tight. I came up on the inside with my knot, and you just pretend you're
A surgeon?
a surgeon. Mhm. I'm going across, and then underneath I'm doing my angle to make that stitch as invisible as possible. So I'm going straight across, and then I angle it up into the next side. Because you can't just keep going straight across, it doesn't move very far. But see how it's getting nice and invisible? And you would use a better color. If I was doing this, I would use either the gray or the white. The white probably on this one, because it would blend with the gray a little bit easier. So
The other way around.
pulling it tight, that's why I have the double thread. See how that's getting nice and
Yep.
surgically closed?
How do you get the double thread?
That is when you have the needle in the middle of your length of thread.
Okay.
And so and the two ends match, and then you do that knot.
Was like shoelaces.
Exactly, there you go. So, and by pulling it tight is how I mean, see how tight I'm pulling it?
Yeah.
That's how you make that invisible. Someone said his child wants to learn how to make fur stuff. It's very difficult because see what happens when I stitch the fabric, the fur gets caught and it's not all nice and fluffy on that seam, which is why making fur animals or even working with mink, any of that stuff, it's very specialized. So when your partners have a mink coat that they want you to do something with, say sorry. Not doing it.
Are you going to finish? Because
I will finish. I am going to finish.
That would look.
I can't send this back to Paul's school without a.
Oh, that actually is ripped.
It was ripped. Yeah. 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 Oh yeah. Here's the stuffing.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Here's the stuffing right here.
Just-
No,
just for
which I did.
demonstration.
That was Paul's brownie when he was 2 years old, and I did open a seam there. But then he brought this one, which is easier to see because that would be brown on brown. And it's not. I mean, it's not easy. See, I'm getting my fingers caught here too, and I hope I have enough thread. Okay, now I'm at the end and I'm going to do the knot. And this is one of the things, I mean, even after all these years, I made the same mistake, didn't have enough thread. So here I am at the end going, crap. And you just do what you do on the other things. You make that. Now because I'm short, I have to be really, and then just through again. I'm gonna go backwards with the needle. Pull it tight. And with this, you can just kind of go in. And that way you have no, this is mine. For the stuffies, if you take that piece that I've had you been stitching on, like a hem, fold it in half. Fold it in half so that the outside, the seams are underneath. This is going to be closest to like a stuffy hole that you're going to run into with the two sides like I did. And it's never going to be easy. Fixing a stuffed animal is not fun. But it's better than trying to replace a favorite stuffed animal.
You're have to do this training all the stuff then?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. He hasn't had them in a long time. This was Paul's his favorite stuffed animal. Guess what its name is? Paul named it Brownie. He was a creative 2-year-old.
I'm messing around now.
That looks very nice.
I've seen it done before. Now my wife can get out of my way.
You know, because you're going to be using the correct color thread.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't look like
This.
Frankenstein teeth.
That's right.
Okay, so now if you do it this way, like a stuffed animal hole is going to be. I've buried that,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and then you just kind of always go across and hide your angle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
More like a stuffed animal hole. And I have brought the knot up here in between and hidden it. And I'm going to go across and angle. Always hide your angle. Which is what I had you doing on the other ones, and I still did not do. The reason is because a straight one is a lot less obvious than if I angled it and came up straight. See, then it's going to look like his. So that's the idea, is you just want as little of thread showing as possible.
This is how I.
Oh, yours looks good. You did, yeah.
I was worried I wasn't getting it.
Well, your tension is off, but that comes with practice.
But is the stitch right at least?
Yeah,
Close
it's
enough?
stretched right. Yeah,
Okay.
you're trying to get it across,
Yeah.
and then angle it. Okay. Don't give up. And how? Oh, look at his fine little stitches. He's a quilter.
All right.
So you go go across, and on the next piece, some of you have started that. It's called a running stitch, or some of you are stitching more like quilting. This one, you would come up, if you want to read your instructions. This is where I need to be coming up, but I'm going to come up next to that. Go down. And you would use a smaller stitch as you're doing this. And you just keep running. Right. But
Is this a double stitch as well?
this is usually a single thread.
Single thread.
And I'm going to show you what it looks like on the back, because I'm constantly going backwards. It's kind of like this. You're going to be doing it.
Move forward a little bit.
Yeah. So you go down, and you're just going to be doing loops like this. And again, pins will hold everything nicely for you, so your tension is good. Before we're done, I just want to show you some things. Oh, yes?
For the single thread, how do you make the knot big enough that it doesn't?
Sometimes you have to knot it twice. You have to do it twice, yeah. I want to show you, this is a chain stitch. When you want to take it out, is it still on there?
They're really similar.
Yeah.
I got lost.
I should have started this. Mhm.
You're ripping.
There we go. I'm ripping a seam, and this is a chain stitch seam on my. I can't tell. Okay. Okay. And this happens without you wanting it to sometimes, but that's how you pull out a chain stitch. My suggestion, go to a fabric store. This is a seam ripper. It's an ergonomic one to fit your hand. And it's much more comfortable than those tiny little things that you can buy from Dritz. It costs $5-6, but it's much easier to use. And always take out your hems and things if you need to. If you're going to shorten something, shorten it up this far, you obviously don't need to take out the hem. But if that hem is going to be in the way, take it out. And we wanted to get to patching.
So we're over time.
We're over time if anybody needs to leave.
Everybody needs to leave that half hour.
This is a patch that I have sewn on. Here's the holes. My grandchildren walk around the world on their knees. This one is sewn on, and what I did is I took a t-shirt. I just went to Goodwill, bought a t-shirt kind of the same color, made a patch, sewed it on. Zigzagged. I just zigzagged it on. No, this is zigzagged with a machine. Now, if you don't have that, this knee also, I made the same patch, but this is called Wonder Under. And I cut out the size of the patch in the Wonder Under. Wonder Under has one side is paper and the other side is a fusible web. You can put the iron on this side. So you cut out what you want, you iron it onto your fabric, you cut out cut the fabric off. Now I have an iron-on patch that matches a little bit better than those ones you can buy in the store and is not as heavy. And you line it up with where the other one is and iron it on. Paper gets thrown away. When I patch with a machine, I will open the seam. Sometimes, like on jeans, the other side is all sewn down. That's called a flat fell seam. Don't fool around with that side. Fool around with the other side. Pull out the threads. It might take you a while. But if you're sewing this on a machine, it is much easier to sew, to do a patch on a thing like this than trying to get your leg over, even if you have a free arm. When you're just ironing it on, you don't need to do that. And the other thing you can do is put the patch, if it's a small enough hole, you can put the patch behind it and sew it. But that's again with a machine. This pair I did like this. I took it apart, put this, because this was really ripped up. Took it out, took this apart. Takes a lot of work, a lot of picking of thread, but now he can wear them and not look like he just got off the boat. So, anybody who is interested with the machine, about the machine, you can stay. Anybody else can leave if you're done. Any other questions?
For machines.
Mm-hmm.
What are the different levels? What are each?
My suggestion, if you want to get a machine, a sewing machine, do not go to like Joann Fabrics. Do not go into Walmart. Your best bet is to find a small sewing machine place and buy a used one. They always, whenever anybody buys a new one, they take in a trade almost every time someone has a machine to trade in, because they get a few $100s off of their machine. And the owner of the shop fixes them, makes sure they work well. And not a lot of schools have sewing anymore, but those small shops get those machines from the schools, also fix them up. You can get a $1,000 machine for $400. So it's a lot better deal. The ones you can buy at Walmart or like at Joann's, they're inexpensive and you're going to have more problems with them than spending extra money, because now you've already made a friend of the owner of the shop. So when you do have issues, you can go ask him. You can take it in. He knows you. If you have a problem with your Walmart machine, yes, you can go to the same guy, but he's going to go, well, yeah, you got what you paid for, kind of thing. So, I mean, this machine is probably 20 years old. It's not the one I use all the time. The one I use all the time is 10 years old. And that one cost me $1,500. But that I don't quilt. I do quilt, but my machines have to be workhorses because I sew every day. And over the years, the people fixing my machines will say, you have worn out the metal parts with your thread. That's how much thread I go through my machines. You aren't in that level. So again, your best bet is to go to a small shop, tell him what you want it for, and he's going to guide you right to the machine. And if he tries to sell you a new one, that's fine, but ask him if he has a used one and see what, you can get for a used one. And he may not have any that you want right then. So wait. And if he knows you're looking for something, he'll call you.
I guess it's what kind of price range could be.
I would say for a new one, you're going to be looking at $700-800. In the used, it's probably going to be $300 to $400.
They start showing you the $700.
As well, that means that was a $1,500-1,600 one, yeah, which has a lot, and they get more expensive with the quilting because that's who they're selling to. They're selling to quilters because quilters, they buy fabric and machines whether they need them or not. You guys, you want a machine that does a straight stitch. You want a machine that does a nice zigzag, and if you can get a machine that does a mending stitch, that is really all you need. And a mending stitch is a zigzag, but it zigzags in small stitches. And that's the kind of thing I use when I'm mending something like this, or you're mending any kind of hole or tear. And that's really all you need, because unless you guys decide to quilt, which is fine, decide to quilt, but then that's a whole different
It was mending, zigzag, and what?
mending, zigzag, and straight.
Do you have any repair things for like little holes where you do it with hand, like that's the right word?
Darning is the right word. Not many people darn anymore. And I had to darn my dad's socks for years. So when I got married and had kids, I'm like, those socks are going right out. Like, they have holes, they're going on garbage. And I can show you how to darn if you want to see how to darn. Basically, it's weaving back and then, both ways. If you have a small one, you can do like we did. You turn it inside out, you pin it, and you can do that little over that I showed you, over an angle. You would want to do it the opposite way though, then you're allowed to do the angle. You can angle it on the inside and then straight through. So when you turn it around, you're going to see all these nice little straight stitches as opposed to the angle. Or you can do the running stitch on the inside.
How about a big round of applause for Sarah?
Thank you for tuning in.